5 Maritime Mysteries. 1. SS Valencia, the Phantom of the Pacific Northwest. The SS Valencia was a passenger steamer built in 1882 by William Cramp and Sons of Philadelphia for the Pacific Coast Steamship Company. Designed for long voyages across the Pacific, she initially transported passengers between San Francisco and ports in Central and South America. However, by 1906, after over 2 decades of service, she was primarily used as a backup vessel, filling in when other ships were undergoing maintenance. The ship was not considered well suited for coastal voyages, particularly the rugged and perilous routes along the Pacific Northwest. Yet, on January 20, 1906, the Valencia departed San Francisco bound for Seattle with 108 passengers and crew members on board. The ship quickly sailed into an incoming storm, marking the beginning of one of the most haunting maritime disasters on the West Coast. Facts and theories. The ship's fateful voyage encountered thick fog and stormy seas shortly after departing. Visibility became almost non-existent, and the Valencia was soon off course. Early on the morning of January 22, the vessel struck a reef near Pachena Point on the southwest coast of Vancouver Island. The area, known ominously as the Graveyard of the Pacific, had claimed numerous ships over the years due to its treacherous rocks and unpredictable weather. The crew's attempts to lower lifeboats were disastrous. Most were swamped by the rough seas, and others broke apart as they were lowered. Many passengers drowned in the cold, turbulent waters. As the Valencia broke apart, survivors clung to the ship's rigging or makeshift rafts. Despite rescue attempts from nearby ships and local tribes, only 37 people survived. 136 lives were lost, many of them women and children. One particularly chilling detail emerged in 1933 when a Valencia lifeboat was found floating in nearby caves, still in good condition 27 years after the disaster. This discovery led to legends that the ship's remains still drift in the seas near Vancouver Island. Theories about the disaster range from navigational errors caused by thick fog, to allegations of an incompetent and unprepared crew, to the timeless allure of a ghost ship. Many locals still report sightings of the Valencia's phantom ship, her crew and passengers visible on board, forever sailing the graveyard waters. 2. The 5 Sullivan Brothers and the USS Juneau, a national tragedy. The Sullivan Brothers, George, Frank, Joe, Matt, and Al, were born into an Irish-American family in Waterloo, Iowa. They were known for their close bond and determination to stay together, a desire that led all 5 to enlist in the U.S. Navy following the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. Against military regulations that discouraged family members from serving on the same ship, they requested and were granted permission to serve together aboard the USS Juneau, a light cruiser launched in February 1942. The Juneau saw action in the Pacific Theater during World War II. By the fall of 1942, it had participated in key battles, including the Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands, before joining the naval efforts in the pivotal Battle of Guadalcanal in November of that year. Facts and theories. During the early morning hours of November 13, 1942, the Juneau participated in the naval Battle of Guadalcanal. After successfully contributing to the sinking of Japanese ships, the Juneau was struck by a Japanese torpedo. It managed to limp away but was hit again by a second torpedo from a Japanese submarine later that day, splitting the ship in 2. The Juneau sank in less than 30 seconds. Reports suggest that George and Frank Sullivan survived the initial sinking, only to perish in the following days due to exposure, dehydration, or shark attacks while awaiting rescue. Their brothers, Joe, Matt, and Al, likely died during or shortly after the Juneau's destruction. Tragically, Navy authorities were unaware that survivors were stranded at sea, delaying rescue operations for several days. By the time a PBY Catalina flying boat spotted the wreckage, all but 10 crew members had succumbed. The loss of the 5 Sullivan brothers was a national tragedy, galvanizing the American public's resolve during the war. The U.S. Navy responded to the disaster by instituting the sole survivor policy, which ensures that family members do not serve together in combat situations to prevent such devastating personal losses. Conspiracy theories arose post-war, suggesting a naval cover-up to hide the negligence in delaying the rescue operation. Some also believe that the government manipulated the tragedy for wartime propaganda to rally American support. Regardless, the story of the Sullivan Brothers serves as a lasting symbol of familial sacrifice and patriotism. 3. Edmund Fitzgerald, the Great Lakes Tragedy. The SS Edmund Fitzgerald was a massive iron ore freighter launched in 1958, named after the president of the Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, which owned the vessel. Measuring 729 feet in length, the Fitzgerald was the largest freighter on the Great Lakes when it was commissioned and held the title for the heaviest load of ore carried, earning it the nickname the Pride of the American Flagships. For 17 years, the Fitzgerald transported taconite iron ore from mines near Duluth, Minnesota, to steel mills around the Great Lakes. Its routine voyages across the treacherous Lake Superior made it a familiar sight on the waters. However, it was the ship's final voyage in November 1975 that cemented its place in maritime lore. Facts and theories. On November 9, 1975, the Fitzgerald departed from Superior, Wisconsin, en route to a steel mill near Detroit. Captain Ernest McSorley, a veteran mariner, commanded the ship with a seasoned crew of 29 men. The Fitzgerald sailed into what would later be described as one of the most powerful storms ever recorded on Lake Superior, with hurricane-force winds, freezing temperatures, and waves reaching 35 feet. In the late afternoon of November 10, the ship began reporting mechanical issues, including a damaged radar system and water flooding the cargo holds. The Fitzgerald's last communication came at 7:10 p.m. when Captain McSorley reported, "We are holding our own." Moments later, the ship vanished from radar screens, sinking to the bottom of the lake without sending a distress signal. Despite extensive searches, no bodies were ever recovered, and the exact cause of the sinking remains unknown. The wreckage was found in two large pieces on the lakebed, about 530 feet underwater. Theories include a structural failure, possibly due to poor design or maintenance, causing the ship to break apart. Others believe a rogue wave or Three Sisters phenomenon, three rapidly successive waves, overwhelmed the ship. Some even speculate that shifting cargo caused the ship to lose its balance, resulting in its sudden and catastrophic sinking. The Fitzgerald remains one of the Great Lakes' most enduring and tragic mysteries, immortalized in Gordon Lightfoot's song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. 4. The Lusitania, the torpedo that shocked the world. The RMS Lusitania was a British ocean liner launched in 1906 by the Cunard Line, part of a new generation of passenger ships designed to be faster and more luxurious than any before it. At the time, Lusitania was the largest passenger ship in the world, capable of speeds up to 25 knots and able to make the transatlantic crossing between Liverpool and New York in just 5 days. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 made transatlantic crossings dangerous. German U-boats prowled the waters around the British Isles, sinking military and civilian ships alike. Despite warnings from the German government, which ran advertisements in American newspapers, the Lusitania continued its passenger services, trusting in its speed to avoid enemy submarines. Facts and theories. On May 1, 1915, the Lusitania set sail from New York to Liverpool with 1,959 people aboard, including women, children, and U.S. citizens. On May 7, as the ship neared the Irish coast, it was struck by a torpedo from the German submarine U-20. A second, much larger explosion followed the initial impact, and within 18 minutes, the Lusitania sank, killing 1,198 passengers and crew. Theories regarding the second explosion have spurred debate for over a century. The British government maintained that the ship was a civilian vessel and that the explosion was caused by the torpedo hitting the ship's boilers. However, Researchers and historians have since uncovered evidence that the Lusitania was secretly carrying munitions for the British war effort, which may have caused the secondary blast. The attack on the Lusitania turned global opinion against Germany and played a significant role in swaying American public opinion toward joining the war. However, there are lingering questions about whether the British government intentionally used the ship as bait to provoke an attack that would draw the United States into the conflict. 5. HMS Terror, Franklin Expedition, The Frozen Fate. In 1845, Sir John Franklin set out with two ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, on an ambitious expedition to chart the elusive Northwest Passage, the fabled sea route through the Arctic that would connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Franklin had a crew of 129 men, and the ships were state-of-the-art for the time, equipped with reinforced iron hulls to withstand the Arctic ice, steam engines for extra propulsion, and a 3-year supply of provisions. Both ships had previously seen action in polar and naval missions, and they were regarded as highly durable vessels. Expectations were high that Franklin would succeed in discovering the Northwest Passage where others had failed. Facts and theories. The ships were last seen by whalers in Baffin Bay in July 1845, sailing into the Arctic. After this sighting, both the Terror and the Erebus vanished, leading to one of the greatest maritime mysteries in history. When neither Franklin nor his crew returned by 1847, search expeditions were launched, but all found little more than sparse remains of campsites, graves, and cryptic notes left behind. The first solid clues to the fate of the Terror and Erebus came years later, when the Inuit reported sightings of starving, desperate men wandering through the ice. More eerie still were the stories of strange, abandoned ships caught in the ice. Skeletons were found near King William Island, leading researchers to believe that the crew had tried to march south for survival after the ships became trapped in ice. For over a century, it was assumed that all the crew members perished from exposure, starvation, and possibly scurvy. However, modern forensic research has revealed that lead poisoning might have been a significant factor in the demise. High levels of lead were found in the bones of the crew members, likely from the poorly sealed tin food containers that were standard on naval expeditions at the time. Lead poisoning could have impaired their judgment and physical abilities, exacerbating the challenges of surviving in such a harsh environment. In addition to lead poisoning, recent archaeological discoveries from the wrecks, found in 2014 and 2016, suggest that the ships were more intact than previously thought, potentially indicating that something else besides mechanical failure contributed to the tragedy. The eerie preservation of the Terror in particular, which was found nearly intact under the ice, has prompted new theories about what happened during those final days. Some suggest that poor leadership after Franklin's death, combined with deteriorating mental and physical health, may have led to fatal mistakes. Cannibalism is another grim detail that has been confirmed through analysis of bones found near the expedition's camps. Cut marks consistent with dismemberment suggest that, in their final days, some of the crew resorted to cannibalism in a desperate attempt to survive. The Franklin expedition remains a haunting tale of exploration gone wrong, with the frozen fate of the crew now serving as a reminder of the unforgiving nature of the Arctic. While the wrecks of the Terror and Erebus have offered new clues, the full story of the expedition's end remains locked in the ice. Conclusion: the lure of maritime mysteries. The mysteries surrounding the Valencia, the Sullivan Brothers on the USS Juneau, the Edmund Fitzgerald, the Lusitania, and the HMS Terror remind us of the dangers that the open seas present, even to the most well-prepared vessels and crew. These tragedies highlight human error, natural disasters, technological failure, and, in some cases, the limitations of our knowledge at the time. They are testaments to the unpredictability of the sea, and the stories they leave behind continue to captivate us. The sinking of the Lusitania changed the course of World War I, while the loss of the Sullivan Brothers reshaped U.S. military policy. The Edmund Fitzgerald still lies at the bottom of Lake Superior, a reminder of how quickly nature can turn deadly. Meanwhile, the discovery of the Terror and Erebus has only deepened our fascination with the Franklin expedition, raising as many questions as it has answered. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into some of the most captivating maritime mysteries in history. If you found this exploration of the unknown intriguing, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss out on our future content. Until next time, keep asking questions, because the mysteries of the sea never truly end.